PM recruiting is not that technical. 3, 2, 1.
I think it's kind of like that.
Oh. Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome back again to my channel. Woohoo! Thank you. Welcome back to our recruiting series. And today I've invited two very special guests, Javi and DQ, to join me on this episode about product management or product manager recruiting specifically at MIT Sloan. Very excited to have you both here, and thank you for taking the time for joining me today. As many of you know, I was also recruiting for product management as a career path. And this is a very, very popular career path at Sloan and across MBAs. So I thought this will be really relevant for a lot of you who are considering this before coming in or during your MBA. So to start, maybe I'll have you introduce yourselves, and during your introduction, mention a little bit of where you're from, what you did before Sloan, where you're going this summer, and if you could be one beverage, what would you be?
My name is Daquan Julian. I typically just go by DQ. Before Sloan, I got my undergrad at UC Santa Barbara in electrical engineering. After that, went to the military for 4 years as an engineering officer. I was over at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Following that, I went to Motorola Solutions, where I worked telecommunication projects for about 2 years. Fun fact, they do more than just make those really cell phones. Pretty much after that, I applied to MIT Sloan, where I got in. I'm going to be a PM at Google. And beverage. So if I was to choose a beverage, I would choose chocolate milk. I'm a big chocolate milk. Oh, it's like nourishment. You need it in your life to grow. I'm the chocolate version, so get it.
All right, Javi, your turn.
Well, that was really good, man.
Hold the bottom.
So hey guys, my name is Javier. I go by Javi, my friends. I'm originally from Venezuela, Caracas, Venezuela. I'm a production engineer by training. I started in the automotive industry in Germany. Then I entered an existential crisis and I realized I didn't like that. So I went back to Venezuela and started working for one of the biggest banks there, which is a very weird change to have for an engineer. But I liked it. I was almost 6 years in the banking industry, mostly in strategy roles, then in innovation role for about 2 or 3 years, which was my favorite job. And then I moved 2 years to consulting. So I was 2 years working for consulting as an innovation consultant. And then I decided to start pivoting my career more into the tech industry. And I moved to Boston to be at Sloan. For this summer, I'll be working for Adobe as a product manager for the, for Creative Cloud. If I was a beverage, I would be a Cuba Libre.
What?
Cuba Libre is a drink of. Sorry, I will put alcohol in here.
Let's go.
It's a drink with rum, which I would say represents more the Caribbean flavor. Cola, which is a very international thing, and it has also a squeeze of lemon, which is kind of the sourness of life, but at the same time the tasty things in life. So I like a lot Cuba Libre.
Thank you for the introduction. Very glad to have you both here. Sounds like we have kind of a diversity of backgrounds here, from engineering to consulting and finance and banking. I hope that gives you a little bit of flavor of what people recruiting for PM are like. So that's one thing I love about it. It's a career path that very much encompasses a lot of different types of skill sets and transferable skills from different industries. And I will be in Boston this summer as well, interning for Car Gurus. Would love to. This is more of chat. All of us went through, this very long but hopefully rewarding recruiting process. And this year, particularly because of the macroeconomic condition, hasn't been the easiest for everybody. So I think it's a very good time for us to talk about some of our learnings from the recruiting process. Maybe I would just start with, I guess, if you can share about your recruiting experience and the process generally to get a PM internship. I think that would be a great start.
For me, I think mine actually started a little earlier. So there's actually different like summer programs you can like dive into. There's MLT, Management Leadership for Tomorrow. There's like Forte. There's the consortium. So initially, I actually had a few companies I applied for. I was like, oh yeah, you can do it during the summer. But the companies, they were like, hey, we took other candidates. We're moving on. I was like, okay, that's fine. I can recruit at Sloan. It's gonna be a great recruiting season. It's gonna be amazing. And so pretty much came to Sloan, where I was like, I'm gonna start recruiting here. Hit the ground early, I guess, with the resume editing at the CDO offers. You can like go get your resume edited, like professionally looked at. They give like small little tweaks. There's like an MIT format you can use. Technically, the recruiting season doesn't start until January, but the companies, they may start early. I think I applied to nearly, my Excel sheet was like 92 different positions.
Wow.
What?
Got rejected from nearly 90% of them. yeah, it was tough. And so pretty much I think it went until February when I finally heard back and got the interview. So
How many rounds of interviews are there generally for these PM?
So I only had one PM interview, so I can speak towards that. But for those, they did 3 different rounds. There was like 3 different people. They asked a series of questions. A lot of them were like design questions, like, oh hey, design a microphone for a podcast, or design a chair for the handy capable, or a microwave for the blind, things like that. And they just want to like see your creativity process for a big part of it.
I would try to complement DQ in this because my journey was in that sense similar. The first step was to productivize your CV, your resume. So in my case, I've jumped from so many industries and in so different roles that the first thing I thought was like, okay, my resume is not going to work for this. It looked like a very cool resume for consulting, but the first challenge was how to change that into a product resume. So one of the first challenges was to actually identify all the products I've worked with, which I then realized I've worked with a lot of products. So it was like, okay, then I've worked a lot in innovation. I worked a lot in digital products, but I never saw myself as a product manager. So the first thing was a change of mindset, and in order to transform all that resume to start the application process. And still that, it was not an easy process. I will go with DQ. I think I had 100 and something. Yeah. So I was almost about the same. At the same time, it was kind of the motivation you needed to go a step forward and actually do something different in order to try to find the right position for you.
When did you start your official recruiting? When did you submit your first resume?
Oh, I think I submitted my first resume in about November, December, when I started the process. But I keep sending it until I got my last offer that I actually accepted.
Did you like networking with Adobe beforehand?
Actually, no, I didn't. That's a good question. The thing with Adobe was that I applied for about 10 roles at the beginning, and somebody told me that they were not interviewing internationals and they were not having international for this year. And I don't know why. So I still applied, don't know if they would take me because it was one of my dream companies. The funny thing is, like, they didn't call me for any of the first 10 roles I applied. And one day I got into the Adobe website directly, not LinkedIn. And they posted like 3 days before this role about customer experience, journey mapping, and innovation for the Creative Cloud. And I just read it and I was like, I would love to do that. And I just realized like half of those things are things I did in my previous role. So I saw it and was like, if I don't have fit with this, I would not have fit for Adobe for any role. Like I saw myself in that role, just with 3 days of difference that they took that out. So one of my first advices is don't go to LinkedIn and wait for that roles that have already 2 or 3 weeks. Go for those roles that have 2 or 3 days. So get directly to the pages of the companies you want to get in and try to be one of the first to apply, because the market is very competitive and you have to be one of the first and top of mind of the recruiters. When my hiring manager called me and we had like the first meeting, it was like talking to a friend. It was like so relaxed, so chill. Like those 30 minutes were super fast, felt like more about curiosity. So he really was into like knowing more about me and getting to know me as a person more than just my roles, more about my skills and my values, so to say. And then I was asking a lot of questions, but a lot of questions, I mean, not just like things you prepare in advance, like, oh, so what's the purpose of the company? No, it's like I was asking specific questions that I was very curious about, like, how do you do customer journey mapping? Do you use customer effort score? Why don't you use it? Why do you use it? So at the end, I felt I was interviewing them, and I was like, oh my god, I'm so intense. They are not gonna hire me. But I think that's how I got a very good connection in the first meeting. I think it was getting to know the culture and getting to know where I actually have the best fit with.
Yeah.
So going off of that, I actually think that was a really good point about networking, and also reaching out to people beforehand, because for some of the other, structured interviews, like for example, investment banking, like coffee chat is something that they must do and almost have to do. So maybe DQ, you can also share for you, like how important was the networking piece for you when you were looking for different types of roles?
I actually think for all the roles I applied for, what I always tried to do is see in my network who I knew actually may have like worked at that company. And so for a few different ones, like Duolingo, there's actually a Sloanie who did a coffee chat here. I was like, hey, like we talked, and he's like, oh, I would love to like put a recommendation in for you. For Microsoft, did the same. And I think those definitely helped. And the interviews came for myself for Google on the back end, and I applied as soon as it opened. I had another friend from my undergrad. I was like, hey, can you write me a recommendation? So I think that helped a lot in terms of actually kind of like securing that opportunity.
I think my experience is also very similar. I think most cases it definitely does help, but I've also had cases where, people help me with a recommendation, but I didn't get an interview. So it really is a mixed bag, but I think it's a good time to evaluate how much you really want this career and just really be creative and do anything, try anything that you can think about to get your chance, ahead of everybody else. So I think we all had to kind of go through that. Do you remember any 1 or 2 interview questions that did throw you off, and what are some of your strategies to handle those questions?
There's a great website called Exponent. It's a free subscription for any Sloanies, and it has like a lot of practice questions from different companies, Adobe, Microsoft, Meta, Google. One of the questions that actually kind of like threw me off, the person asked me like, hey, we talked for a bit, did a little intro, like tell me about yourself. Like, yeah, just let's dive into it. They asked, hey, how would you make a rideshare app for children? I sat for a second. I was like, for children? It really helps to like have a lot of practice questions of things that you may not expect, because it just kind of like helps you get to the mindset of thinking creativity. Because a lot of the time when you're working with like products and you think about the customer, you have to think about all edge cases, all possible situations, and how you can actually best tackle it. And thinking outside the box sometimes. There's actually a book by Lewis Lynn.
No,
Cracking the Code, I think. Cracking the Code. Yeah.
Y'all have to read it, by the way.
And he actually walks through, he's like, hey, pretty much just on a daily basis, kind of like train and practice for like a PM creativity and even help in life. Just be like, oh man, how would I improve this chair or this stool, this computer? And you think of like 20 different, like 10 different ways, and they can be like the most wild ways. You can be like, oh man, I'm gonna put like an extra battery pack on the outside.
I have a hack, and it's if you go to and ask about in Glassdoor, if you put PM interview questions, Google, PM interview questions, Amazon, Duolingo, Adobe, will have the type of questions they do in that company, or they doing it in this recruiting session. I had 7 different interviews with, and all of them were very interesting. So I would say they were very specific on the things a PM would do. So the first one was a funnel analysis interview. They put me like some screens and then the conversion rates, and then I would have to actually have some A/B testing hypothesis in order to improve those conversion rates. That was very fun, and they made it very fun. Yeah. The other questions were more like traditional product questions, like how would you improve this product, which is a product you hate, and how would you improve it, or create me they would make me actually sketch. So I would have to have a pen and paper and sketch how that screen would look like, and then show them what they were my design decisions. And one that actually took me out of my comfort zone was actually creating a user experience design for play day match platform for children. So basically it's like if you would it was like a kind of Tinder matching process for children. I was like, this is so weird, but at the same time it was so interesting. So I would say the hack here is getting very curious, do a lot of questions, but very deep understanding what the final user is, what are their needs, and then start designing from that point. Start designing those screens. I love designing, so in my case, those ones were very fun for me. But I would say doing interviews is the best way to actually get closer to theirs.
I think you brought up a really good point in terms of just getting help from other people. I think most people who recruited at Sloan probably got a lot of help during the process. I think for me personally, I think the product management club was very helpful. The second years were really, really helpful. I did a couple of mock interviews with them. Obviously, you use Exponent and all the external resources. One thing I would have kind of done differently is I would have started the mock interview process earlier. I didn't really start until February because January, because I didn't get any interviews up until kind of that point, and for me it was a little hard to motivate myself without knowing what companies you're interviewing for. But the case questions were definitely worth starting early.
I'm curious, did either of you guys reach out to the second year who may have I'm sorry, I can hold it. The internship you're in the year prior for like either Adobe or Car Gurus?
Oh, I did. Actually, I talked with Christina. She had such an amazing experience at Adobe that she was telling me about her experience in the cultural side, and she was already convincing me of not accepting anything else that was not Adobe. Which it would talk very good about the culture and about the people in the company, but at the same time, she helped me like understanding like the broad perspective, what they are looking for, and it will actually help me to manage my anxiety, but at the same time, just trying to see if I have the right fit there. More like if I see myself with people like her, so definitely it was like very encouraging. Also, the PM Club here advertisement.
Let's go. We gotta do the plugs.
The PM Club helps you through the entire process. Like for the resumes, I had like 3 friends, very smart, already PMs they had already a PM experience. They helped me change my resume like 10 times or 20 times until I got the one I felt very comfortable with. They also helped me, some of those friends gave me some questions they had in their, for instance, the Amazon interviews. And I would say all of that orientation and having a community of people that are like-minded and at the same time are one step ahead and they know what you've been through.
Yeah, I think for me too, I didn't reach out during the interview process to someone who entered there last year, but I know during IAP, which is, this winter break that Sloan does, a lot of our classmates actually did a short four-week program, the PM Lab with Car Gurus. So I did reach out to some of those classmates to understand how they work, and I thought they were a really cool company. And I think from there, and because that program didn't have an interview process, but it was just really helpful to understand the scope of work per se. And one of my interviews was actually a Sloanie. Who graduated a couple years ago. So it was, honestly, I thought it was more like a coffee chat than an actual interview. So I really enjoyed the process. So we're going to move on to the next part, and it's going to be quite fun. So here, these are cards for you. I'm going to read off some statements, and you guys are going to, on the count of 3, show that whether you agree or disagree with the statement.
Okay, yeah.
All right, we ready? We're
3,
gonna.
2,
Oh wait, I'm ready. Woo! I'm being timed. All right. So these are some questions that will be a little bit of a mystery or kind of myth about PM. So just go with your gut and whatever you feel is you feel strongly about. All right. The first statement is you can get any PM job because you're at MIT. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, I guess. Okay, we got some mix over here. All right, how about Javi? You seem pretty confident.
1 year ago, before coming to Sloan, a friend of mine, he told me a phrase that I thought was kind of silly. He told me, people at Sloan get their dream jobs, not because they are at Sloan, but because they made it to get into Sloan. And it was like, okay, that sounds weird. Obviously, MIT has a very cool branding. Obviously, that's a way how you find these amazing jobs. And then being here in this process, I would say, after applying to 100 jobs, I would say being at Sloan or Harvard or Wharton, like that doesn't give you directly access to this kind of jobs. It's a very competitive environment, and mostly in a year like this, it's not an easy process, and it's during the process you get frustration, that you have a lot of anxiety, and it reminds you how you made it here.
You said like amazing, like everything you said is like 100% true. But I think even right now, ideally, hopefully, it'll be much better next year. It's a number of games at the end of the day. I know for a few different companies, they have like limited slots. They actually canceled slots. Know your strengths, know what you can bring, know the company, know what kind of questions they ask, and use that to your advantage to try and get your best opportunity.
Cool. Let's move on to the second question. This is based on a lot of kind of videos that I've watched, and you probably came across it. People would debate how technical the PM interview process is. So I'm just going to throw it out there that PM recruiting is not that technical. 3, 2, 1.
I think it's kind of like that.
Oh.
I know for Google, they have it's 4 different components of the interviews. Typically, it's the craft and execution, design, estimation, and technical are usually the ones they have. This year, they actually got rid of the technical piece of the interviews, which is really nice. They have to like study CDNs or anything like that.
And I would say, and I would agree in this case with DQ. Google is engineer based, and they give you a lot of importance to the engineering team. So it is necessary you have maybe not engineering background, but you need very good engineering concepts or at least some experience in order to actually perform well. While other companies, in this case like Amazon or even Adobe, you have roles that are companies that are more product oriented, and they actually want you to have a very good business background, a lot of systemic view, understanding more of the customer, a very human centered approach. So I would say it depends a lot on the company. I would say just this 2 years also to get technical enough on what you need. For instance, I'm doing right now a certificate in business analytics, and I'm getting a lot for the role.
No, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I think it's very useful tips for our audience. Now, okay, let's move on to the pretty much last part of this, and let's have some fun. And thanks again for sharing all your insights about PM recruiting. That was.
Save this?
Yes, you may keep it and use it to your advantage.
Every time she says something, I like.
All right.
Endorse.
Cut it out.
Every time you cuss, just.
The next part is gonna be a fire round, so I'm gonna ask you quick questions like A or B, and you gotta answer me in like a second. No overthinking. Just go for it. Okay. Dawn or dusk?
Dawn.
iPhone or Pixel?
iPhone.
It was a trick question.
We got him.
She actually works at Google. She's from the Google recruiting team.
It's very tailored, guys. Left or right?
Right.
Accounting or DMD?
DMD.
Okay. Hobby.
Oh.
Lake Tahoe or Steamboat?
Oh, Lake Tahoe, definitely.
Boston or Panama?
Boston.
Oh!
For now.
Photoshop or Lightroom?
Photoshop.
Okay. DQ or ChatGPT?
Oh, DQ, definitely.
For closing, I'm going to ask one last question to each of you, and then we'll wrap it up. So maybe start with Javi. Give us your 30-second pitch on why Venezuela is amazing.
Wow, Venezuela is amazing. It has one of the most beautiful beaches in the world. It has the highest waterfall in the world and one of the oldest lands in the entire world, which is Angel Falls. And the best thing of Venezuela is definitely the people. It's simply amazing and very welcoming. And I just hope to organize soon one of the trips for you guys.
That's my intention. For all the audience, DQ is actually the community building chair for our Mediterranean Ocean. So tell us about your best and worst times or experience and memories as the CBC.
Only best, obviously.
They're in the same ocean.
First day I walked in,
I'm
I walked in, Javi was there, I just looked in his eyes, and he's just like, worst day. Yes, I think, so we always have this snowball, it's like a 30-second spiel, right?
Yeah.
So I think snowball, we had a get-together, and we prepared for the pregame, pretty much. It was really fun. I think we had like a vast majority of everyone there. Really great time hanging out. We gave out like superlatives. It was a really fun time. And then we actually went to Royale and had a really good time.
Royale's a club.
Yeah.
Oh, that was really fun.
Okay.
Yes,
Google it.
It was a really good time.
well organized, bro.
And I think for me, a lot of the time there's a lot of because sometimes we use WhatsApp for like everything, and we have like I think probably from this call or this interview have like 100 missed messages, and so a lot of people do have the same exact thing. And so sometimes if there's an event going on, I have to like individually ping people like, oh hey, what's this going on?
Thanks, guys, again for joining us today and listening to us, giving our little spiel of the PM recruiting. Hope you took something away from it. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave down below in the comments or reach out to us. And hope to see you guys sometime if you're coming to Sloan on campus. If not, hope you follow our channel and continue to be in our community on YouTube. And thank you both again for today, and we'll see you next time. Bye.